Open your mouth for a second. Go on. Now think about every single thing you do to keep those teeth alive. Twice daily brushing, flossing, fluoride toothpaste, mouthwash, dentist visits, whitening strips, electric toothbrushes that cost more than your first month's rent. And you still get cavities. Now consider this. Archaeologists have spent decades digging up the skulls of people who lived tens of thousands of years ago. People who had none of that. No toothpaste, no dentist, no concept of oral hygiene. And what did they find? Perfect teeth. Not whiter, not straighter, not cleaner looking, but healthier, structurally, biologically, fundamentally healthier than yours. No cavities, no decay, no infections, rotting them from the inside out. So what exactly happened between then and now? Because the answer isn't what you think, and it's going to make you look at everything you eat a little differently. Let's start with the science, because there is actual science here. Real peer-reviewed, published in journals. Science, researchers extracted DNA from the calcified plaque on the teeth of 34 prehistoric European skeletons. They covered the full range from the Mesolithic to the Neolithic through the medieval period and into the modern era. They mapped the changes in oral bacteria across thousands of years of human history. Ancient humans had lower loads of harmful bacteria and a significantly lower risk of developing tooth decay and gum disease. But then, something changed. Once farming populations expanded, huge amounts of gum disease and cavities started cropping up. Farming, that's the moment right there. Not sugar, not laziness, not bad genetics. The single biggest shift in human oral health in the entire history of our species happened when we decided to start growing our food instead of hunting for it. But why? Why would farming destroy your teeth? Sit with that question, because the answer goes somewhere most people never expect. Actually happening inside a hunter-gatherer's mouth. They ate meat, fibrous roots, vegetables. They cracked open nuts with their back teeth. They chewed on tough, raw, unprocessed food for hours every single day. The fiber from wild vegetables and roots helped keep their teeth clean, even without toothpaste, even without electric toothbrushes. There were few sugars and starches to contribute to plaque buildup. Their food was their toothbrush. Every meal was a cleaning session. But here's the part that actually matters. It wasn't just what was in their diet, it was what was no refined sugar, no white bread, no crackers, cereal, pasta, juice, or any of the soft, sweet, starchy things that fill a modern grocery store. None of it. Not a single molecule of the stuff that feeds the bacteria that eats your enamel. And when you stop feeding that bacteria, something interesting happens. It doesn't just stay at a low level, it essentially disappears, or more precisely, it never arrives in the first place. There is a specific bacteria responsible for most human tooth decay. It's called Streptococcus mutans. Say that name, remember it, because this is the villain of this entire story. Fermentable carbohydrates, sugars, and starches strongly influence the proliferation of acid-producing bacteria, particularly Streptococcus mutans. These microbes drive the development of dental cavities by generating acids that erode tooth enamel and initiate cavities. Here's what makes this genuinely disturbing. Evolutionary genetics has provided evidence that Streptococcus mutans appeared in human dental plaque around the time humans transitioned from hunter-gatherers to farmers. This bacteria did not meaningfully exist in human mouths before farming. We didn't inherit it. We didn't evolve alongside it, we created the conditions for it. We fed it exactly what it needed to thrive. Grain, starch, sugar, the foundations of the agricultural diet, and it moved in and it has never left. And then things got worse. From the 19th century, a very sharp decline in the biodiversity of dental bacteria has been observed, as well as the onset of an oral microbiota associated with the presence of cavities, with a predominance of S mutants. This is contemporary to the industrial age and to the sharp increase in the consumption of sugar. So it wasn't just that people started eating more sugar, it's that the entire bacterial community inside their mouths was replaced. The diverse, balanced ecosystem that kept ancient teeth healthy was crowded out by one dominant species, a species that produces acid as a waste product, acid that dissolves enamel, acid that creates cavities. We didn't develop bad teeth. We cultivated the organism that creates them, and then we fed it for 10,000 years. But cavities are only half the story, because something else happened to us when we started farming, something that most people have never heard about and cannot see until you look at a skull. Our jaws shrank. Human jaws have been shrinking ever since the spread of agriculture. During the Neolithic Revolution around 12,000 years ago. Bones from burial sites of past hunter-gatherer societies are associated with larger jaws and mouths, while bones retrieved from former farming cultures have decreased jaw size. Same number of teeth, smaller jaw, you can already see the problem. What happens when you try to fit the same number of teeth into a smaller jaw space? Overcrowding and crookedness. Anthropologists examining skulls from hunter-gatherer populations consistently find the same pattern: beautifully aligned teeth, broad dental arches, and no impacted wisdom teeth. Among medieval populations, roughly 36% showed signs of needing orthodontic treatment. In modern samples, that number jumps to 65%. We went from almost nobody needing braces to 2/3 of us needing them in a few thousand years. That is not evolution. That is something we did to ourselves. So why did the jaw shrink? Because we stopped using it. As we traded raw, tough foods for softer, more processed ones, the burden of chewing decreased, allowing our jaws to shrink over time. Here's the mechanism. When children bite into firm, textured foods, their jaw muscles engage. That muscular activity creates mechanical strain on the bones. Those strains trigger bone cells to lay down more material, expanding the jaw outward and forward. Your jaw grows in direct response to chewing demand. No demand, less growth. And wisdom teeth, we view wisdom teeth as a medical defect. But they are actually a sign that our bodies are functioning correctly. It is our environment, our diet, that has failed to trigger the necessary growth. Think about what that means. Wisdom teeth are not the defect. The underdeveloped jaw is the defect. And the underdeveloped jaw is not some genetic flaw you were born with. It's the direct result of a childhood diet of soft, processed, minimal effort food, starting from infancy. Around 17% of adults today have impacted wisdom teeth due to lack of space, but hunter-gatherers had less than 2% incidence of impacted wisdom teeth, 2% versus 17%. Same species, same teeth, completely different jaws. The only difference is what they chewed. Now here's where it gets uncomfortable. Most other vertebrate creatures do not have the same dental problems that we do. They rarely have crooked teeth or cavities. Our fossil forebears did not have impacted wisdom teeth, and few appear to have had gum disease. Animals eating their natural diet don't schedule root canals. Wild primates don't need orthodontists. The problem is specific to modern humans, and it's specific to what modern humans eat. From an evolutionary perspective, a couple of centuries is a flash in the pan. Not nearly enough time for our teeth to adapt to the changes in our oral environment wrought by the introduction of table sugar and processed foods. Our mouths are running ancient software on a completely incompatible diet. The hardware hasn't changed. The inputs have changed. Completely. Here's the part. Nobody in the dental industry wants you sitting with too long. The global dental industry is worth over $500 billion. Toothpaste, floss, electric toothbrushes, orthodontic braces, fillings, implants, whitening procedures. An enormous, sophisticated, expensive system built almost entirely to manage a problem that barely existed before farming. Before industrialization, before we decided that convenience mattered more than what our bodies were actually built to process, a researcher named Peter Ungar spent 30 years studying the teeth of living and fossil humans. His conclusion, the contradiction is new and is limited largely to industrial age and contemporary populations. It is best explained by a mismatch between today's diets and those for which our teeth and jaws evolved. A mismatch, that's the word. We are not failing to maintain our teeth. We are running an ancient biological system in an environment it was never designed for. And then spending billions of dollars every year treating the symptoms instead of the cause. People then had perfect teeth. They were worn down, but had no cavities. They might have had access to honey, fruit, and berries, but refined sugar wasn't available. The traces we have indicate that very few people had serious tooth decay, worn down, but not rotten. That's the whole story. In 4 words, their teeth showed a life of hard use, a jaw that developed to its full size because it had to work every single day, a mouth full of bacteria that couldn't thrive because the food never gave it anything to feed on. Ours show a different life entirely, easy food, soft food, processed food, a jaw that never had to develop because the work was done for it. And a microbiome that has been slowly rewired over 10,000 years of farming and 500 years of industrial sugar into something that actively consumes us. Your ancestors didn't have better oral hygiene habits, they didn't try harder. They didn't have a superior morning routine, they just hadn't invented the thing that's destroying your teeth. And here's the thought you'll carry with you after this video ends. The dental problems we treat as routine, the cavities, the crooked teeth, the impacted wisdom teeth, the gum disease, the billions of dollars of corrective work, virtually none of it, is inevitable. None of it is simply the human condition. It is a very specific consequence of a very specific set of choices our civilization made over the last 12,000 years. Your mouth remembers what it was built for. Whether the rest of your diet does is a different question.